Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. The clash of Western Conference Titans, as we called this, going into Game 1 on Monday night. A slugfest of epic proportions in Game 1, in which San Antonio ultimately prevails in double overtime, steals home court advantage, and as we kind of framed it, I think, going into this series, this is potentially what the dominance of the rest of the league might look like for the next decade. And, I think this is going to leave a statement on the rest of the league by the time this series finishes. Clearly, it was San Antonio setting the tone, at least, out of the gate for this initial series. What
a start, though. From a neutral standpoint, you watch that game, and it's just a great game of basketball. Two heavyweight teams going at it. If you're Oklahoma City, you're a little scratching your head a little bit more, but for such a highly anticipated and hyped up series, I thought it got off to about as good of a start as you can ask for in terms of entertainment value.
Yeah, nice when things live up to the hype. It's only been one game. Feels like we might be in for a long series here, but yeah, what a start, what a crazy game. And it's funny, the couple days since getting away from, when you're there, you're not really aware of what's being said on the broadcast, or I think we all kind of felt like they're not really playing that well. It's been funny to see the reaction around the country was more, wow, these two teams are just trading haymakers. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what happens in the rematch here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a portion of that game where that was the case, but I think when you look at the game as a whole, there were a lot of things that the Thunder can do much better tonight than they did in Game 1. And look, I would say the same about San Antonio, maybe not to the same level. I thought San Antonio as a whole played a much better brand of basketball than the Thunder did. This is a Thunder team that I think going into this series we all looked at and said they've been through the grind of the postseason. The difference between them and the Spurs, there aren't many, but the major difference is that San Antonio is just now really going through this for the first time. They've never been to a Western Conference Finals. They've never been this far into a postseason grind. The Thunder just won the championship a year ago. That's kind of what separates the two. I felt like the Thunder were going to be the tone setters in Game 1, and so when we are talking about this game in the aftermath of Game 1, even though it was a great matchup that went 2 overtimes, the thing that left me, I think, puzzled the most was the fact that by a pretty large margin over the course of the entirety of the game, the Spurs were the more aggressive and physical team. They set the tone in terms of Game 1, and they kind of out-thundered the Thunder in Game 1, and I'm curious to see how that flips tonight, but the Thunder can't go into Game 2 allowing San Antonio to be the aggressor.
Yeah, they've got to bring more intensity, more aggressiveness this time around, and I truly think in the days since, I think that there's a mental battle going on with San Antonio. I'd be curious to see how this matchup shakes out if you end up facing Minnesota, for instance. But I think there is a little bit of some mind games going on there. Maybe not games. I think it's all Oklahoma City dealing with it. But I think tonight will be a crucial test of where this team stands and how the rest of the series is going to go.
Yeah, no, Colby, I would agree. That was a big part of what I thought the Thunder was going to be the big difference in this series was that the Spurs, looking like a cold take right now, thought maybe a year away. It's unprecedented for the Spurs to do this young, really on their first run. Nobody's ever done it, right, in the history of the league. It's only one game, but that probably is like the scariest thing for Thunder fans coming out of the first game on Monday. Wemby and this group clearly built for this, right? Like they rose to the moment. That's a bit scary because you thought that going in, the Thunder have been here. They've been in these big moments. They literally won a title last year. The Spurs have never been here, and you wouldn't have known it with the way the two teams played on Monday, which is, again, scary. One game, but scary.
2 points I'll make. Number one, having covered the NBA as long as I have, the biggest overreactions in the postseason are always after Game 1, right? Because that's all somebody's seen, and so they just immediately think that's the way the rest of the series is going to go. You're not really tested until Game 2 when you're forced to make adjustments. So don't overreact yet. Let's see what happens tonight in Game 2. But secondly, I think in terms of that difference between having playoff experience and not having playoff experience, that'll show more as the series goes on. Game 1 isn't necessarily a great indicator of that separation. The grind with 1 day off in between each of these games, I think, is where maybe you start to see that separation, and maybe we don't. But if it's there, I think that's where it will be most glaring. The Thunder lost 2 Game 1s in last season's playoffs en route to an NBA championship. Although this San Antonio team feels a little bit different than either Denver or Indiana, they have been here before, and they spoke about being in this position.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in this situation before, so this feeling's not really new, but it's also a completely different basketball team. But I think that the thing that remains the same is we have to get better with each game. We have to learn the mistakes from the wins and the losses, tonight the losses, and continue to get better. We did that in the previous two when we lost game one. We have to do so again this series if we want to give ourselves a chance.
The cumulative experience, it just teaches you that it's a series. Game one's a starting point, not an end point. We've lost a playoff series that we've won game one pretty convincingly. And we've also won series that we've won game one. So every series is different. It's the first of four. They're 25% of the way there, and we're at 0 right now. But there's a lot of basketball left to be played. But I think this team kind of understands the length of a series, the length of a playoff run, the length of a playoff game. That's the value of the experiences that we've had.
It's a series. It's a long series. You know, we're not gonna be perfect. Obviously, we've been in this situation before. You know, we're able to turn the page and face the next game with a 0-0 mentality and just go out there and try to win the game. So, you know, we know it's the playoff, it's a series, and it's gonna be a lot of ups and downs. So we just got to be ready for the next one.
I'm not a big subscriber to, the whole must-win scenario, but tonight feels like as close to a must-win scenario as there is, having to face, 2 games on the road against San Antonio over the weekend. This is a team that, again, they said they've been there before. Josh, you mentioned being in the arena and not getting a pulse necessarily for what the rest of the country feels like. I've seen a lot of reaction to, I guess, the Thunder maybe looking down and out and not exuding a ton of confidence in the same way that they did after those 2 game 1 losses a year ago. Have you guys sensed anything from the Thunder in terms of like the composure maybe not being there in the same way?
I would say throughout the whole of this playoff run, I feel they have done enough, obviously, and they've looked really good, but I don't think they've tapped in to their full strength. I think there is a little bit of a mentality thing there that not last night, game 1 is hopefully a wake-up call, and that maybe that rattled their cage, and it's not that they've been asleep at the wheel by any means, but I think we're just going to see hopefully a more intense look out of them.
Yeah, and you don't want to make excuses for them, but I do think the layoffs have been hard, especially for Shea. I mean, we talked about it before the game on Monday. Like, he starts every series and has gotten better and better as they go, and then right as he's really starting to roll, they swept, and then there's a week off. They've had to do that 3 times now from the regular season and before each round. And so I think the Thunder these last couple of years, Mark Dagnall talked about it, they kind of, and it's not really a great habit, but it is a good thing, I guess, in this spot, in that they kind of feel a series out. It's like the first game is almost like getting a sense for the way that they're going to defend them, and especially for Shea in particular. And so we'll see what kind of adjustments they can make. I honestly thought post-game Monday, the way Coach Dagnall and hearing Shea, which we heard a little bit of from there a second ago, kind of had a little bit of more of a relaxed, like, we're going to make adjustments, we're going to be okay. It's a long series, like they said, it's a first to 4, so we'll see. But they got to make the adjustments quick. Like you said, you don't want to have to go to San Antonio feeling like we might need both of these to get back in the series. Yeah,
I mean, you get the one tonight, and then you get one of the 2 in San Antonio. You're right back where you're supposed to be. The order doesn't necessarily matter, but when you lose the first one, it feels like there's a lot more pressure for Oklahoma City to get this one. It starts with SGA, right? I do feel like he's maybe shown visibly more frustration this postseason than we typically see from him. He was 7 of 23, wasn't incredibly efficient on Monday night. 24 points. They've got to get a better performance out of him tonight, and obviously he was very much aware of that following game 1.
Quality opponent. We knew it was going to be a dogfight. We just got to be better. Me in particular have to play better, especially against a team of this caliber. Nothing more than that.
There you go. I mean, he points the finger at himself always. I mean, if you're watching that game, there were so many clutch moments even where you're like, Shea normally doesn't make a bad pass there, or he fights through the physicality usually a little bit better. It just, again, it just felt a little bit off. Yeah,
off is a great way to put it. I think he's, like I said, for the team, I think they've been playing well, but haven't fully locked in. I feel the same exact way about him. And it is interesting you bring up that trend of, maybe it takes him a minute to get going, and then right as he gets going, it's another week-long break. So that, I think, could certainly be playing a role right now, but I think if you want to be confident about this Thunder team moving forward, I think you need to see more confidence out of Shea. Maybe not confidence is the right word, but he's someone that a lot of the times these games come down to the wire and he's the one who delivers. I don't know if he feels like he's there just yet,
Yeah.
but I think, again, once he gets rolling, that changes things.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be a lot better. He knows that. I mean, he said as much. I mean, it comes to the territory of being the MVP of the league 2 times. I mean, the expectation is for you to be the best player in every game the Thunder play, right? I mean, that's where the bar is for Shea, and he obviously was not on Monday night. And I talked about it in the postgame on Monday. Like, the best player in a given series in the NBA, whichever team has the best player, wins the vast majority of the time. Not every time, but a lot of the time. One game in, that's been Wembanyama, right? He was unbelievable on Monday. Shea's got to find a way to match that, and I fully expect him to play a lot better, obviously, the second time around.
Along with Cameron Johnson and Josh Calloway, I'm Colby Daniels. We've got to take a timeout. We're counting you down to the start of Game 2, the Western Conference Finals, Oklahoma City hosting the San Antonio Spurs. We have a Thunder forecast, and we got to get into Chet and Wemby, the rivalry that exists there on the other side of the break. You're watching a special edition of The End Zone.
Conditions for downtown. Back to you.
Thank you, Jack. We got to talk about, I think, one of the glaring storms from Game 1, and that was Victor Wembanyama, who had a terrific performance, 41 points, 24 rebounds, obviously made a ton of key plays down the stretch of the fourth quarter and the overtimes. The three-pointer, obviously, that has been all over the place. Unless you've been living under a rock, you have been very much aware of Victor Wembanyama's three-pointer, the block shots, the dunks anytime he touches the ball in the paint. He is a problem. The individual rivalry with Chet Holmgren obviously hasn't lived up to the hype in terms of Chet's performance. I spoke with former Thunder guard Anthony Morrow earlier today about what he needs to see out of Chet with this Wemby rivalry.
I need him to match that energy because Wemby is on something different from back in the day against Chet. You see what I'm saying? And I think he's never going to stop because he knows that's they the champions. We are the champions. So he's going to be at them and Shea and J-Dub and everybody forever. And they still really young. So we got to see what happens. Tonight is very imperative, and we got to see who's going to respond. 41 points, 24 rebounds. I need to see somebody match that kind of energy. That's all I need to see, bro, because he's not going to stop. You know what I'm saying? He knows he has an advantage. So we will see tonight. And when I said this earlier in the season, Chet, I need you. Brother, I need you. I love you, bro. I need you to show me what you gonna do with that, because that's not gonna stop.
I think a lot of Thunder fans echo that statement,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Chet, we need you. You have to play a much better brand of basketball and match, I think, the intensity that Wemby brings to the table, because Wemby takes this matchup to a whole different level. I mean, that's Wemby we saw in Game 1 looked nothing like the Wemby we saw against Minnesota even, right? Like, he takes this matchup personally, and I know the Thunder have this approach of, you treat every game the same, but you have to be ready for what Wemby is bringing to the table, and Chet's got to find a way to level up his game.
And then you factor in, too, this was right after he ended up finishing third for the MVP. He clearly plays well with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, he plays well anyway, but you factor that in. What's interesting to me is a lot of the times when you have a rivalry between two players, it's typically the lesser player, lesser in this.
The underdog.
The underdog
of the two,
who does a lot of the talking. But it's the reverse right now. Wemby clearly wants it to be something, and like Anthony Morrow said there, I think Chet needs to match it a little bit, and maybe that fires him up a little bit more, because based on what we've seen, especially against the Spurs, he's got an issue going, whether it's mental or what, I don't know, but especially after the great series he's had so far, to see this is slightly concerning, and it needs to get fixed.
Yeah, I thought Anthony Morrow hit the nail on the head as far as, we talked about it. Like, Chet's always kind of downplayed the rivalry. Like, I don't really even know Wemby, all that sort of thing. Too bad. He has to find a way to, whether he wants it or not is a thing, right?
It's
and so
coming.
he has to find a way to match it. I'm not saying he needs to score 40 and have 20-plus rebounds like Wemby did, but he can't go 8 and 8 in a double OT game either. I thought it's not on any one guy on Monday, but Chet was the biggest thing that hurt him on Monday night. He just didn't play well really in any. He had the block at the end of regulation. That was about it. So you need him to step up in a major way tonight and the rest of the series if they're going to have a chance.
He's got to at least match the physicality that San Antonio is bringing out there, regardless of what the individual matchup with Wemby looks like. All right, we've got to take a timeout, but speaking of Wemby, I kind of felt like the Thunder maybe in some instances were timid in terms of attacking him. So how does OKC attack Wemby in Game 2 tonight? We'll talk about that on the other side of the break, along with Josh Calloway and Cameron Johnson. I'm Colby Daniels. This is a special edition of The End Zone. Just over 2 hours away from tip-off, OKC and San Antonio, Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, as close to a must-win for OKC as there is. Along with Josh Calloway and Cameron Johnson, I'm Colby Daniels. One of the big storylines in Game 1, obviously, was not only what Wemby did offensively with the 41 points. He was terrific on the glass, 24 rebounds, but even though he didn't have a big night statistically on the defensive end of the floor, just his presence, I thought, played a big role in OKC's offensive struggles. They seemed very timid, I think, in terms of attacking him early in the game. It did get better in the second half. I think Mark Dagnall sort of downplayed maybe the timidness of the offense, but these guys talked about attacking Wemby and I guess what goes into the mindset of making that call to be aggressive versus finding the open shooters.
Yeah, you just got to be aggressive, also just be smart, I think, more than anything. He, yes, obviously is very big at the rim, but we still found cracks in it at times. We just got to be willing to work possessions and make sure we get the best shot each time down, and just be patient with that.
He's like 8 feet, so it's more so being smart about attacking him. Obviously, head on, he's probably going to block a lot of those. But, you know, the more you can move him around, and again, I just don't think you can be like shy about going in there, but it is like split-second decisions got to be pretty smart, and you got to know where they're rotating. And when you have a player like that, they're built around rotating if he goes. So we got to figure out different ways to attack that, which I think we'll be better at.
Clearly, they were better at it in the second half. I wonder how much of that carries over tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be imperative. I think you look at what Wemby does, it is just a testament to the timidness overall of this Thunder team. I think when you have a guy like Alex Caruso who's just playing with no fear, he clearly had some success against him. I mean, even on the defensive end as well. I think, as they mentioned, Oklahoma City's just got to be a lot more aggressive in attacking him and can't be afraid of, yes, he's probably going to block a couple of shots in there, but you can't let that, you know, downplay your efforts. And
he's going to get some blocks. You have to just live with it. The fact they got to the fourth quarter without him having a foul, like they just didn't challenge him at all. I'm not saying you have to be silly, be smart with it, but to just completely avoid him, I don't think that works either. So I'm curious to see what adjustment, if any, we get in the second game.
Just about 2 hours away from tip-off, OKC, San Antonio, Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. We'll have more on the other side of the break. You're watching a special edition of The End Zone. Tonight, it's Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. Game 1 absolutely lived up to the hype, a heavyweight slugfest. Unfortunately for the Thunder, it didn't go their way, but I'm expecting a wild atmosphere tonight and a big bounce-back performance from OKC. Along with Cameron Johnson, I am Colby Daniels. We are joined by Adam Francisco, covering the Thunder for the Suave Report. Adam, it was a wild night at the Paycom Center. I thought the energy inside the arena was amazing. I thought, the fans being loud, even though there were some lulls early in the game. The second quarter was about as bad a quarter as we've ever seen in there. But it was electric. It was everything you want a playoff game to be. The end of regulation, the overtimes, and then it just kind of, the wheels fell apart late in the second overtime.
Well, the wheels were slowly falling apart for the entire game because they couldn't shoot. But I said during my post-game video that was the best playoff game I've ever covered. Honest to God, that is the best playoff game I ever covered, from execution from both teams to crowd participation, obviously, to the suspense of the game, double overtime and all that. Best game I've ever covered, but Game 2, the Thunder are going to have to ramp it up a notch.
Yeah, a little bit. The finish to the game, too. Like, you always love whenever it's one of those where they're just trading haymakers. And
Yeah.
then, of course, in that first overtime, you have Wemby making a 30-foot running three-pointer from the logo, and it's like, okay, it's going to be one of those nights.
Did you see it was from the exact same spot that Steph?
I did,
Yeah.
yes.
And it was the same, like, shot missed. It was off the same
Yeah.
shot missed.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, the side by side of the two videos, if
Yeah.
you've seen those, it's pretty incredible. It also kind of reminded me of the Jokic 3 in Game 5 last year.
Yeah.
That was just like out of, you're just like, oh my gosh, like these guys will not go away. But yeah, I mean, I think the Steph one is probably the better side by side comparison. But I mean, San Antonio showed up, they brought the fight. I think the biggest surprise to me was that San Antonio was, over the course of the game, the more aggressive team, the more physical team. I know some people have complained about the whistle, and you can find missed calls if you really want to look for them. But I thought San Antonio, for the most part, earned the whistle the way that Oklahoma City normally does, by being the more physical team, by being the more aggressive team.
I always say, and this dates back to 2024 with the Dallas Mavericks in that series, anytime a team comes in like vocally wanting to beat the Thunder, wanting to be better than the Thunder, vocally wanting to best Shea, this is Wemby versus Shea, obviously.
Yeah.
But whenever a team comes in with more intensity than OKC, they typically win the game, or they at least make it more entertaining than it probably should be. That's what the Spurs did on Monday night, and again tonight, the Thunder are going to have to come in as the aggressors. They're going to have to throw the first punch, no matter what.
Yeah, and I think too with the Spurs, they're on paper they're an underdog, maybe, but this is a team that does not play Oklahoma City like an underdog, let alone any of their games. And I think that you come in knowing that you've had that regular season history against them, and there's just all those other little factors, motivating factors, especially for Wemby, and they come in and they, like you said, they felt like the more aggressive team, and at times the more just dominant team as a whole. So tonight will be really interesting to see how they respond.
You mentioned Wemby versus Shea, 1 and 3 in the MVP. It's also Wemby versus Chet because of that individual rivalry. First of all, I'll say SGA and Chet both have to be better, right? I mean, the two of them collectively have to be significantly better tonight. One thing that stood out to me about both guys in Game 1, I didn't think either guy handled the physicality of Game 1 well. Like, both guys have to play through the physicality better, and if you get the whistle, great. If not, like, you have to be prepared that they're going to be physical with you and you're not going to get the whistle, and I didn't feel like either guy absorbed that well, and some of it was also body language.
They were doubling Shea and in some cases tripling Shea. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Yes, obviously he has to be better. Like, there was an open floater he had from about 8 feet out that he just completely blew. Things like that have to be better. Control what you can control. But when it comes to Chet, and with all due respect, Chet, he cannot, I'm going to say, punk out of the assignment with Wemby. There's no reason why he should have 6'4" Caruso, 6'6", or maybe not even that, Jalen Williams trying to guard Wemby in the paint. I understand if it's a perimeter thing, because I do think Caruso is a good matchup on Wemby. 15 feet extended, but in the paint, what can someone 2 inches taller than me do with someone 7'5" in the paint? Chet has to step up to the plate. If he sees Wemby in the paint, he needs to go into the paint and guard him.
If nothing else, at least be more physical than Dylan Harper, who outworked him multiple times down the stretch of the game. So if nothing else, be more physical than a San Antonio guard. Did the outcome change your opinion about the series in any way?
No, I said Thunder in 7 in November.
Okay.
I said Thunder in 7 in January after, what was it, the 4th loss or the 3rd loss against the Spurs, and I'm saying it now, Thunder in 7. I think we win Game 2. I think we split in San Antonio, and I think we just play back and forth until the series is up.
There you go.
Yeah.
I talked to former Thunder guard Anthony Morrow earlier today. His thoughts on the rest of the series.
Honestly, I still feel like we'll win the series, but it's going to be a different mentality right now. You know, like, some people going to have to really step up because they have a real chip on their shoulder at this point, and we have the MVP. We need to see that Michael Jordan type stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? Kobe Bryant, like, really be on it And I think he has that in him to pull us through, to get us through to the finals. Because whoever wins, this is the real NBA final.
There you go. He expects the Thunder to win. He says this is the real NBA Finals, and Shea needs to have his Michael Jordan moment. Expectation for tonight's game? You think Thunder control the game, or it's another slugfest?
I think it's another slugfest. I think it'll be within 10 points, really within 5 points. I say Thunder 110, Spurs 104.
There we go. Look, I just said going into the series, I hope we get competitive basketball. We didn't get a lot of that in the first 2 rounds. It's a lot of, even though the Thunder lost game 1, it was a ton of fun just having that back and forth and, feeling all those emotional swings in a Western Conference Finals matchup. That is Adam Francisco. Check out theswavreport.com along with Cameron Johnson. I'm Colby Daniels. We will be back with Josh Callaway, talk about the San Antonio Spurs and their outlook for game 2 next.
Just going down inside the Pregame Center. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Jack. The weather, I think, very representative of maybe the feelings of the Thunder fan base following Game 1. A little cloudy, gloomy, misty, but hasn't been the storm yet, right? Because you still have Game 2. It's still early in the series. Nobody's hitting the panic button, but you certainly have a bad taste in your mouth following Game 1. I think what really, I said this off the top, what surprised me was that the Spurs kind of out-thundered the Thunder in Game 1. They were the aggressor. They were more physical than OKC. I also think that they just showed more confidence in terms of just the entirety of the game. I felt like they looked at the Thunder as if we're the better team. I don't know that the Thunder looked at the Spurs in Game 1 as though we're the better team, right? And maybe they're just too young to know better. Maybe there's some maturity there that will have to grow, but they don't believe that they're going to lose this series. They believe they are going to take care of the Thunder in the series, and they're going to the NBA Finals. That just seems to be the mentality that they exude, both in press conferences and their body language. They talked about the Game 1 win and I think taking control of the series.
I feel like it was a great effort from everybody, 1 to 15. Physically, I'm feeling tired, honestly, but not as much as you would expect, honestly. It's probably the adrenaline. It's going to come down a little bit. I'm probably going to sleep pretty well tonight. The message would be that we as a team are ready to go in any environment, in any place, against anybody. And even though we still got a lot to learn, our effort should be over anybody else's. And tonight we were relentless.
Obviously, every game we come out, we want to set the tone. We want to impose our will and play our style of basketball. And I feel like last night we went out there and we were able to do that. We'll focus on how we could, be a little better about it going into the next game. But for our first game, I think we set a pretty good tone.
In a game where you go to double overtime, and both teams are probably referring to almost double-digit times where you say this could have won us or changed the game, it would be immature to not acknowledge it. And so there's definitely moments that we will acknowledge and refer to in terms of what we did well or what we could have done better. And I think understanding that that game was in the balance multiple times for both teams, so you can't get preoccupied with the outcome because there was so much in the balance that could have went either way.
For as much as we've talked about things the Thunder could have done better, it was in the balance. There were so many moments where you felt like the Thunder were one play away from, sealing the victory. I think San Antonio, as they said, feels like there were a lot of things they could do better. Both teams can play a better brand of basketball, but I think, again, Champagnie said it, we set the tone. That, to me, is objective number one, beyond any X and O's, beyond any things that they can do better or not. The aggressor and the more physical team in this series, I believe, will win each game. I think we will, at the end of the series, look back at each individual game, and if we can pinpoint which team was more aggressive and more physical, I believe that will be the winner of each of those games, and the Thunder have to match that, and it was all San Antonio in Game 1.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as you fall behind like that, you end up playing catch-up for most of the game. That wears on you a little bit. And, of course, the Thunder, to their credit, still did a lot well. that maybe we haven't seen in prior series, but they did a good job of sticking with it. I think this was kind of a punch to the mouth, so to speak, and I think it's going to be a little bit different tonight. There's going to be more of an emphasis on urgency, I would expect. So I expect another fun game of basketball, though.
Yeah, this all begs the question of lineup, right? Did they change the lineup? Because we talked about that. We dabbled in that convo a little bit on Monday in the post game, because they went with the double big, and Mark Dagnall got away from it quick. Because that first couple minutes, not good. I mean, Spurs jumped out, had almost a double-digit point lead before the game had even settled in. So very curious to see, do they go Ihart to the bench and bring an A.J. Mitchell or Cason Wallace or one of these other guys in, go a little smaller? Very interesting because, like you guys both said, you got to go up to a better start. You can't be playing catch-up from the very beginning, which is what they did on Monday.
To me, you make that move. You match Ihart's minutes with Cornette's minutes, and I don't think you start Alex Caruso, by the way. I think he is more valuable coming in as a spark plug than out of the gate. And the way he plays, obviously, you can't maybe play him as much as you would want because he will wear down by the end. But whatever it is that he has, they need to bottle that and pass it to everybody else tonight because he was on a different level than his Thunder teammates over the course of the, 48 plus 5 with the 2 overtimes. Like Alex Caruso was at a fever pitch, and his Thunder teammates have to match that. The Spurs are expecting that they're going to get a much different punch from the Thunder tonight, and the Thunder are going to play with a lot more urgency.
I think that's what every team would do after a loss in the playoffs. You come back, you play harder, you make some adjustments, and going to the next game. I think that's what they'll do. They'll come out with more intensity. They'll come out stronger. Playing harder, playing faster. So we'll be ready to counter that.
It would be huge to have 2-0 and then go back home to San Antonio where we know the crowd's going to be going crazy and we know we play great back home. So our focus is just keep getting better. I think there are a lot of things that we can do better on the offensive end and defensive end that we can clean up and that we're going to go watch film and be a part of. But I'm just excited for tomorrow's game. I'm excited to hear their fans get loud again. I love playing away games because you hit those big shots, or you get those big stops, and it just gets super quiet. That's honestly my favorite.
He referenced the fans and making them super quiet. I mean, there were obviously highs and lows in Game 1. I am expecting as good an atmosphere as we've ever experienced in Game 2 with the urgency now to get one back in this series. And as long as the Thunder don't have the long offensive lulls that they had at times in Game 1, I think the entirety of tonight is going to be electric in terms of the fan base.
Yeah, and it doesn't get talked about as much as it deserves to, but I think fans do play a big role in through all sports. I think they play a big role in how games go, especially for the Thunder. They're a fun crowd on just about any given day, but you throw in the fact that you drop a Game 1, there's some nerves. People, like you said, are probably overreacting a little bit. Now that you bring that in, I think the fans are going to bump it up a level as well.
Yeah, Thunder fans want the series really bad, so I would anticipate as good as it gets, frankly, tonight. I'm curious, the Spurs, that they have to battle human nature, right? I mean, I'm sure they're a little more gassed than Thunder are. They had a much longer series. This is where, the layoff, it hurts the Thunder, but as the series goes on, it could help because they haven't played that many playoff games. The Spurs had a bit of a battle with Minnesota, so curious to see if the Thunder can jump out to a good lead. Maybe fatigue gets San Antonio, crowd gets going. That could help a lot.
All right, we got to take a timeout. We are getting closer to tip-off Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. What are we watching for tonight? That's next on this special edition of The End Zone. Tonight is Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Oklahoma City looking to even the series before they head to San Antonio. Guys, before the series started, we all picked players to watch in this series and what role they might play in OKC's success. Josh, we'll start with you. Now that one game has been played, what's your view on which players need to step up and how you sort of view what we're going to see going forward?
Yeah, my two, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Joe. Chet, we talked about earlier, has to be way better. That's probably objective number one for the Thunder tonight. You have to get a much better version of Chet Holmgren if you're going to have a chance to win tonight and the rest of the series. And then Isaiah Joe didn't play in the first game, which blew my mind. We talked about the post-game show on Monday, especially considering how many times they were settling for threes, open threes, and it was like, Isaiah Joe is your best pure shooter on the team. Very interested to see if he can get some run tonight. I would think so. I would hope so, but I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. That's one of the adjustments we talk about.
Before the series started, my attention was on Jalen Williams. How does he fit back into this lineup after missing some time? And ultimately, I thought he did a pretty good job of picking up where he left off. The obvious, though, is Chet Holmgren. He's going to dictate how most of the series goes if he can't step it up against Wembanyama and on both ends of the floor as well. So
I thought Chet was such an obvious answer that you could almost say that across the board, so I just decided to switch it up a little bit. Dub, coming off the injury, was fantastic in Game 1. I think he's the biggest mismatch for San Antonio in terms of Thunder players. I think they need to utilize him more in the offense. And then A.J. Mitchell was terrific in the Lakers series. I'm sure that they will look for more ways to include his offense. It's much needed, obviously, for this team, but those two guys, I think, are critical in terms of generating a little bit more offensive success from this Thunder team, which was lacking in Game 1. It's a must-win for the Thunder. Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals tonight. We'll have breakdowns after the game.